I'm going to do something very stupid. I'm replacing my main PC with this, a $70 keyboard computer, the Raspberry Pi 400. But what makes this even more insane is the timing. August is the biggest month I've ever had on Patreon. We've got new apps, weekly feature drops, and for the first time ever I slashed the membership prices by up to 70%. It's already the 8th of August. The full roadmap is live on Patreon with a major app release just coming out tomorrow on 9th of August. But here's what's coming. There's an MVP of Crosslink which allows wireless continuity. It essentially is a background process with strong RSA AES encryption hybrid to be used by NEX apps to provide incredible wireless features like bash emulation from your phone, using your phone as a wireless mic or webcam, wireless file syncing across different devices running different operating systems as well as architectures, and even airdrop-like features. Crosslink GUI, for example, already supports file sharing even when the app is not running in the foreground. Evolve will also soon support wireless theme syncing across Linux devices and more. Along with Crosslink is the release of the all-new NEX Expressive UI with new expressive buttons, widgets that behave more lifelike, and it also comes with a new color generator that adapts and produces color palettes that look visually beautiful, based on the good old color theory, as well as some personal magic. And of course, all of these updates ported to Evolve, along with support for Crosslink like I mentioned. I need to have everything ready before the end of day today for timely scheduling. But the more important question here is, can the Pi 400 pull it off? Well, the time is ticking. Let's get started. The challenge was to do three things on the Pi 400. Design a major component of Crosslink, export the app, and do some rigorous testing before our final release on the 9th. And after all that setup, I was already hit by the first problem. But more importantly, it was a peculiar one. So basically, I was trying to change the wallpaper, but clearly it just stops responding. Now you might argue that it's actually installing updates in the background, which is why this problem is happening. But I started the install updates process long after whatever has happened over here. And if you're wondering where I'm recording this, I'm also using a video capture device. So there is not really much stress on the hardware. I'm actually already starting to miss my main PC. And before you guys start blaming me in the comment section, I know for a fact that Raspberry Pis are meant for hobbyists. They're not really meant for heavy lifting. So I do have some hobby kits in the drawer, but unfortunately I never can use them. So I thought, why not try to use the Pi 400, which has been lying around for more than 1 year, and see how far we can push it. So this is just a fun experiment. Okay, so while it installs the update, which is almost done, let's try to get ahead with our own process of installing Flutter as well as Android Studio. I don't really know if I would be installing Android Studio, or I guess it would be better to go with VS Code because that is much more lightweight. But I think the familiarity of Android Studio is something that I really like. Let's see what happens. So Flutter, you might see me weirdly writing stuff because, you know, the desk is at a very weird angle. So here we have Flutter. I should have clicked on install. Let's click on get started. So we need to get all these development tools. I don't really know if they are available on ARM. Let's try and get them. But before that, let's start downloading the Flutter SDK because it does have a solid size. I have no idea whether this is for Flutter ARM or x86 architecture. Let's just hope it is for Flutter ARM. After getting the download started, it was time for installing the dependencies. Most of them were already installed. After waiting for some time, I was ready for the first moment of truth. I extracted the Flutter SDK, and when I tried to run Flutter, as I was expecting, it is not meant for the ARM architecture. After some search and getting misguided by YouTube videos, I figured out that the Git version of Flutter works for ARM. So I git cloned, and then I was finally good to go. And by the way, I installed VS Code as the IDE instead of Android Studio for obvious reasons. And next, it was time to fire up Crosslink, which is also going to be our second moment of truth, since this is the very first time Crosslink will run on ARM. Okay, so it's already day 2, and last day I forgot to shoot this part because it was already late. So today I'm going to explain how much of Crosslink is already done. So to be honest, most of the part is done, which actually allowed me to take this calculated risk of shifting everything to a Pi 400. But there is also a fair bit of work that is left. That is the settings page as well as the first setup page, because those require some important information like your username. Now, for the past few days when I was developing entirety of Crosslink, I did not have to provide any username because it used the device pretty name as the username. But now if you have two Xiaomi phones, then there will be a username clash. So we need to have something more unique. And that is why I started with the designing of the settings page. It's actually already linked inside the FAB, which also unfolds into this toolbar, which is again a part of the NEX Expressive design. But I don't think the location of the settings page is still very correct, because honestly, at first I didn't really know where to put the settings wheel or the settings button. I haven't thought to replace the receive page with settings page when there is no receiving process, but then that would be a really bad UX design decision. So instead of that, I think putting it inside in this area makes more sense. Okay, now let's start with the designing of the settings page. So what I'm going to do is basically add two material text fields, which are widgets of NEX Expressive UI, and we're going to link the username in the first one. So here we have the username, and after that let's add some space so it doesn't look weird. And after the username, let's put another material text field where we are going to accept the default location. So you can change the default location. For example, in Linux systems it is the downloads folder, or even in Android it is the downloads folder. As of now, I did not add any capabilities to add photos and videos to your gallery automatically, so it just stays inside the common downloads directory of your Android phone. But that is a pretty simple addition that I can just add in future updates. But as of now, it is not there. Okay, after these two, let us add some space. Now we need to prepare a block list, intermediary list, and allow list. The way Crosslink works or accepts connection is basically, it's very simple. Now if you approve a connection, it will add points or trust points to that device, and when that trust point exceeds a certain number, then the connections get approved automatically. So if you're using a few devices together at your home, for example, you have 3 devices and you always accept connection from the other 2 devices, then they will have more trust rating than a new device that is added to the network. So in the near future, when you share files from the other 2 more trusted devices, if the trust rating actually exceeds that certain point, it will automatically download everything to your PC without requiring your permission, which I think is very handy. Okay, let's get on with it. So here we have the first one, which is the block list, obviously. And yes, of course, you can add them to whitelist, but that feature is not yet available in Crosslink. What you can do is block them. So here we have the block list, and so we are going to show the devices which have the cancelled parameter, which is the block list, and then we can add the intermediary list, which means the devices which are in transition, you can reset the parameter if required. I guess I will replace the close button. We can use the same loop in the 3. And the third one, which is the allowed list, which is of course for that specific keyword, it will be allowed. And by the way, the reason why I can't scroll is because the scroll wheel of the mouse is actually broken. And done. I think we have the settings page ready. Great. Now, what we can do, the initial setup page, we can replace the settings page with the initial setup page if a parameter is passed. So what we can do is add a parameter over here in the settings page. Let's say a Boolean parameter. So if this parameter is false, which it is by default, it will just open the settings page. But before doing anything, I think for the sake of simplicity, it would be better to wrap everything inside a column. So we can just put them aside with a simple if statement. then it will not show the allow list, intermediary list, as well as the block list. I mean block list, intermediary list, and the allow list. You will get the default savings path for change as well as the username. And I also replaced the column with a list view so that the entire interface becomes crawlable. So what we're doing is basically leveraging the already existing settings page as an initial setup page. I think this is more than enough for the first MVP. I think it is pretty smooth to work in Raspberry Pi. I mean, we have already done most of the work in very less time compared to yesterday, because obviously I was a bit unaware, or I did not have the knowledge of how things work in ARM64. So I had to waste some time in order to find out in particular, because when I searched over the internet, there were some videos which I followed and they did not work. Initially, I thought of using the Pi 400 for the entirety of the posts that will be coming up on Patreon, but I think it is too big of a risk to do, and it is also a bit too difficult, because shooting what you're doing is already kind of like an overhead, but after that, if you're using a Pi 400 for most of your work, that adds even more friction and resistance. But we still have one more work left. That is the final test. I'm going to use a 5.4 GB's worth of a zip file transferred over Crosslink from my phone to an Intel PC running Fedora, from where I will relay the file to the Pi 400. The first step was already looking very promising. The zip file transferred perfectly fine, and I could unzip the entire thing as well, which means there was no corruption. I even tried sending over multiple files, since I added the facility to tackle almost unlimited files in parallel over Crosslink. But the real problem started when I tried to relay the zip to the Pi 400. It was slow, excruciatingly slow. I thought the problem was with my app, so I installed local send and tried sending the same app over, and the same thing actually happened, which made it clear that there were hardware constraints. Just like how Android to Android transfers hit a speed of 6,000 to 7,000 kilobytes per second, whereas on Android to my PC over extended Wi-Fi, it hits a max of around 1600 kbps. Since time was running out as well, I had to give up hope. I tested parallel connection on the Pi 400, and with smaller files they worked pretty well. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. Do like, share and subscribe. I will post more videos. There is a GNOME release coming up soon, as well as Fedora release coming up soon. I will post videos on those, so stay tuned. There has been a lot of production gear upgrade. You can already see the lighting and everything has changed on the channel, and we are ready for a new 6.0 channel update. And talking about updates, I think I should specially mention those who make everything possible over here. I would personally like to thank David Fleetwood for being the longest supporter on Patreon. He has been a Patreon member since late 2023, and he has supported in many ways, not just by being a member, but also helping me with ideas as well as debugging in the early days of theme installers and Devolve. I would also like to thank Ron Brand for being a long-term member. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate your appreciation of my work. Thank you so much, Ron. There are plenty more members whom I would have liked to mention, so I had actually asked them for their permission if they have any problem if I mention their name on the channel as well as in the thank you wall of my app. So I couldn't really get replies from everyone, but I will definitely mention them if they allow me in the next videos. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Do like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.